Climate change is moving higher and higher onto the political agendas of many governments. And the general public in many countries is very concerned about the effects of climate change.
The IPCC, after a lot of wordsmithing, concluded that most of the observed globally averaged temperature change since the mid-20th century is very likely due to observed increases in anthropogenic greenhouse gas concentrations.
Our recent journey across Alaska and Canada, we met and talked with literally hundreds of people, all citizens of the North. They all know things are changing there. They know the climate is warming, but they also know that there's a mineral and oil and gas boom going on.
In the case of Inuit, when we discuss our traditional culture, this is not a discussion about history or anthropology. It is about our daily lives.
And we did this because the Sami, the indigenous people who lived there, told us that something had happened in the 1980s. They didn't understand it, but they'd seen changes in wind direction, they'd seen changes in snow lie on the landscape, and that had affected the way reindeer grazed and the way reindeer moved between pastures. What did we guys at the research station know about that? And the answer was nothing. But it was in our records, and when we analysed our records to look for what the Sami were telling us was happening, then we found this very highly significant jump of over 1 degree Celsius in an extremely short period of time, an abrupt change.
Somehow the character of the sea ice loss is different now. We've sort of entered a new state. Some people have suggested that perhaps we've passed a tipping point.
Of course, sea level rise is an important non-Arctic but Arctic-derived climate change signature, and this shows the impact of translocating the water contained in the Greenland ice sheet and putting it into the oceans and finding its way ultimately to South Florida and the coastal zones of the world, where a substantial fraction of the world's population lives.
So if the Greenland ice sheet really goes, we will have enough fresh water to shut down the thermohaline circulation.
The IPCC makes a couple mentions of the temperature changes over the last decades to century. They point out that the temperatures in the Arctic have increased at about twice the rate as the global average, and they point out that the Arctic temperatures have a higher decadal scale variability.
50 gigatons of methane would come out of this permafrost. That's 10 times the amount of methane that's in the atmosphere today.
One of the practical applications of this kind of research right now is dealing with the multi-$100 million question of what to do with eroding shorelines in Alaska and other places in the Arctic. The Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation told us that there's over 22 dumps that were built quite a ways inshore that are about to ship garbage into the ocean if they're not already. The question of how much to spend and when to spend money to move villages is very actively looking for outputs on this research.
The message comes through that not all the impacts will be negative. Longer growing season means opportunities in agriculture and forestry. Reduced heating costs will be a benefit of the warming, especially if the warming is strongest in winter, as it's projected to be. Increased marine access will present opportunities for tourism, commercial and industrial activity, and there will be some military and security implications.
Shipping interests in Iceland and in Alaska are analyzing the potential for scheduled container traffic across the Arctic Ocean within a foreseeable future. So one can say that the Arctic is coming much closer.
As we move into the future, we really should be thinking about the fact that the people of the North themselves are going to be the ones who actually determine much about its future.